Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Ethan.
Oh, hi everyone. So I'm Ethan. It's only my second podcast, so a bit nervous, but let's get it.
You know what? Just treat it as a chat, as a catch up. Get to know each other.
I mean, it's been a while, and I don't think we've had a proper catch up before since the first time we met was APU States, I believe.
Yeah, way back when.
Yeah.
When was that? That was like May.
That was after Carnival.
Oh, okay.
I judge time by raves.
By raves, we love that. Love to see.
It was like 5 weeks after Carnival.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Because I remember we had state qualifiers before, and then we had like another 4 or 5 weeks to re-peak. So that was a rough.
I know it was actually. It's been a rough year for powerlifting. I think.
Oh, yeah,
just
definitely.
Just the quick turnover.
Yeah.
Being pretty rough on the body, but I don't know. We finally get a chance to, I guess, sit down and for me to get to know you. I think I know of you. And, we've hung out a little bit at parties here and there, but never got a chance to get to know you and your story. So thank you for joining.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to see it. So I guess tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name's Ethan. I'm from Singapore. So I was born in Singapore, and then I moved to Hong Kong for 4 years. I only moved back to Singapore when SARS broke out because my brother was born, and he had a couple of heart complications at birth, and Singapore had better healthcare. That's why we moved back to Singapore, and I've been there since. I did my entire high school in Singapore. I served my 2 years of national service, and then I finally moved to Australia for university. That's
like the very quick summation of Ethan Mack.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not much, but yeah.
No, I feel like, traveling is very, I don't know, in Australia, well, for myself in particular, I've just been in Melbourne my whole life. So when I hear your story or when you've traveled, from Singapore to Hong Kong and then back to Singapore, and now you're in Australia living by yourself?
Yes, living by myself. Family's all back home.
Yeah, exactly. Has it been scary?
To be honest, I was actually really looking forward to living alone.
Oh, really?
It's having that sense of independence, and you can't always be relying on your parents for everything. I knew so many people in Singapore, especially because the housing problem in Singapore, it's so rough. A lot of people don't get their own houses, so it's very common to stay with their parents, like even late into their careers. And I just I wanted my own space. I wanted to cook for myself, especially as a powerlifter. Can't get enough protein. I just wanted just have that separation away from family. Don't get me wrong, I still call my mom every day.
Mama's boy?
Of course.
Yes. Always we love Mama's boys.
Exactly. So
love to see it.
And then I just wanted that time alone.
Yeah, exactly. And funny you mentioned about eating food at home and stuff. I think it's so hard for powerlifters or even bodybuilders or people who are really trying to fine tune their progress in the gym to have well balanced macros and nutrition and everything. Yeah. But shout out to Asian parents and Asian grandparents in particular, dousing everything in oil and
exactly.
Oh god, it tastes so good.
It's the oil, it's the seasoning, it's so good. And you see the macros and it's there's barely any protein and it's all fat and carbs.
Exactly. But I guess talk to us about Singapore lifestyle. I'm actually headed there in a little bit.
Yeah, so. You told me. So I think the biggest difference with Singapore and Australia is the overall culture. It's very hustle. It's very almost textbook. It's from primary school, actually from kindergarten, their exams. So
kindergarten.
Yeah, I think I did exams when I was in kindergarten.
Oh my god.
So that was a fun start.
Oh my lord.
So after kindergarten, parents fight to get into top primary schools. And so at the end of primary school, there's a big primary school leaving examination, and that determines which secondary school you go into. And so that's really cutthroat. So it's actually to the point where since everyone does well, a lot of schools, they'll choose students based on how close you live to that school and how much donations your parents want to make.
Wow.
So, that's why in some areas property prices shoot up because they're near reputable schools. So you go to secondary school, you do your high school exams. They follow the British system. So for those of you who know, it's kind of like GCSEs, or in Singapore, they call it O-levels. And after that, that's what everyone grinds for. After that, there's a lot of different paths. So they either go to high school or year 11, 12 equivalent, where they do A-levels or IB, which is kind of like VCE. And the alternative is it's kind of like trade school. it's called like ITE or Polytechnic, where you learn a skill.
Yeah, so probably like TAFE.
Kinda,
Here,
kinda.
right?
But
Yeah.
it's actually becoming more common for people who go to Polytechnic in Singapore to transfer over to university. So because Singapore is a very service dominant country, we have no resources. That's why everyone wants to go to uni, get that degree, and then, get that corporate life.
It sounds like a really high pressure environment.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. How did you cope with it when you were growing up? Were you really good with the pressure? Did you enjoy school when you were growing up?
So fortunately or not, I went to an international school because my dad he's originally from Hong Kong, but he's Australian. So I have an Australian PR. And so I was lucky enough to go to an international school rather than the local system. So I spent a couple of years at the Australian International School, actually. And I moved over to a more international school. It's called United World College, or UWC. And we did the IB program there. So yeah, that was like IB is if it's done in Australia, and I have some friends here who's done it, so they would know that it's rough.
I feel like, yeah, IB is like probably the next step up from your VCE equivalent.
Really, I always
don't
saw them
know.
as equal, to be honest.
Maybe. I guess I'd never understood how ranking systems work in Australia. I think it's the most backward and obscure way of quantifying kids and getting them
Exactly.
into university. What were you like as a kid growing up?
So I grew up really fat. I'll be honest. It took me a long time to say that,
Me too.
but like I can confidently say it on air now because
Yeah,
it's made me who I am today.
I love that so much.
But yeah, being the fat kid wasn't fun, but I think it really taught me to have a thick skin, and it also really motivated me to pick up sports.
Yeah.
So throughout most of high school, I was a competitive swimmer, and so it's the usual: wake up at 5 a.m. every day, 6 times a week, train 4 or 5 hours a day. But I met all my best friends there because we there were times where we saw each other more than our families. Like we're in the pool, we're in the gym. If not, we're eating together. So I think it was very fulfilling. I actually still keep in touch with a lot of them, and they're the only friends I keep in touch with in high school.
Yeah, I love that. And what was I can relate to the being a fat kid in I guess primary school, high school, growing up. You're going through your progressive years, and obviously you got a bit of baby fat, and then you start to lengthen and broaden a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, as young males, I think it's very unspoken about body dysmorphia. I remember like year 6 or year 7, like house carnival, swimming carnivals. You're doing like
yes.
push-ups the night before, or you're doing sit-ups the night before. You're like Googling how to get 6-pack abs.
I remember those days.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. I guess talk to us about what that was like, because I think I can truly relate to that and the body dysmorphia that comes with, I guess, being a little bit chubbier or not being as slender or lean as other kids.
I remember I used to hate PE because they always use the metric of running to determine your skill level.
Your beep tests.
Exactly. There was the beep test, or there was just the bare bones, like, 800 or 1 kilometer run, which, like, looking back is not that far after going to the army. But, in the moment, you're like, oh, 800 meters, that's like, 2 laps around the field. And I remember, like, I was always the last one. I was the slow one. I couldn't do push-ups for the longest time when, I saw all my mates who grew up playing football or rugby and just slamming out push-ups, or some of them were even doing pull-ups. I was like, wow, like,
Pull-ups.
one day,
That's
like,
pretty impressive.
I can dream one day. And I just, like, I remember, like, I never felt so frustrated with myself. But then again, because I was a kid, you go home and your mom has food ready. I'm like, tomorrow's another day. What's, one more meal now?
I love that. So I can relate so much to that, because yeah, you're always like setting those goals or being really beating yourself down, but then I don't know, food's lovely.
Exactly, yeah. It's comforting,
It's so good. Like,
I think especially in Singapore where it's perpetually hot and humid,
Yeah.
you go home, there's like ice cream or like whatever frozen treat there is, you devour it.
amazing. So I guess in terms of that, you would have very fond memories of your childhood and growing up in Singapore.
Definitely. Yeah, it was. So yeah, I spent the whole time with the family. I had my extracurriculars and, had my good group of friends. It was, I consider I was a very lucky childhood, and I do look back on it fondly. But I'm very glad whatever happened in the future happened, because it really humbled me and, opened my eyes to what the world really is. And that another issue I see of Singaporeans is that they perceive Singapore as the world, in which they're afraid to leave that bubble. And so I've heard cases where, amazing students, they got scholarships to America, to UK, but they wouldn't go because, they're too comfortable within Singapore, because all they have to worry about is going to school, getting good grades. They come home, they live with the family. So food, accommodation, everything's sorted out for them. And just taking that plunge to, live alone in another country it's too much of a thought.
So when did this realization come about? And you talk about future events. What are you sort of alluding to in that?
So towards the end of high school, my parents' marriage started really breaking down, and it started with, so my dad owned a company, and it went pretty well until the financial crisis, and it kind of went downhill from there. And actually, on top of that, he started gambling. So I just remember like one day I was so this is first time actually.
Take your time.
I wasn't planning on coming to Australia to study. My eyes were set on America.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to swim. Like you watch all the movies, like wow, American college life is the dream, and like I wanted to get my way there through swimming, or even if I thought like if I didn't swim, surely I could still go. So I remember after finishing my year 10 exams, my GCSEs, I went straight into practicing for my SATs. And I think my mom didn't have the heart to tell me yet, but she was hinting it. She's like, you should consider Australia. It's a lot cheaper since you're a PR, and like realistically, you're probably gonna get in. I'm like, nah, I want America. And I remember like when applications came around, like all my friends applying, and my mom's like, you're not going to America. I'm just like, ah. And she was like, yeah, like realistically, you're not gonna make it as a swimmer. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it was harsh, but I'm like looking back, like I needed to hear it. That was the start of me, accepting reality. And like looking back, like I obviously was gonna make it. They've got Olympians, they've got these huge guys swimming, faster than I could ever imagine. And that's when, and actually I was also falling behind in my studies because I was prioritizing swimming. So this timeline wise, this was about a year into IB, and then that's when I put my foot down. I started studying really hard.
Well, I guess that's amazing that I don't know. It can be so hard when parents give you the harsh truth, or
exactly.
Yeah. What did it feel like? Because I can imagine how heartbreaking it would be to hear from your mum, and someone that you love so much, just telling you straight out no.
So as frustrated as I was, like I think I can't stay mad at my mom because she's done so much for me. So like basically like I kind of found out eventually because you notice things like my dad was more stressed. He was never present throughout my childhood because he was always working. So since his office was in Hong Kong, and we were in Singapore, he'd come to Singapore for Saturday or Sunday, stay in the home office all day, and fly out Monday morning. So I never saw him. So perpetually it was my mom raising me and my two siblings on her own. So, and my mom was always the stricter one. She was the more Asian parent. So I think when she told me, I knew, I didn't know, but as frustrated as I was, I knew there had to be a reason. And I think when she saw that, she sat me down. She's like, like financially, we're not doing well. And like the money we had saved up for your college, yeah, your dad kind of blew it all away. So I'm just like, okay, I really appreciated that she told me the truth. And that's when I accepted, okay, I'll I'll make the best of it. I'll one step at a time. I'll push through army. I'll come to Australia. And back then, this is a whole different topic. I was just doing some research and I saw the best uni in Australia is Uni Melbourne. I'm like, okay, I'll just set my goals and get into Uni Melbourne, the best uni in Australia. What can go wrong? And then, Uni Melbourne now, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm sure you know how passionate I am about
exactly,
the topic. Yeah. God, I could feel myself sort of tearing up there. And when I hear you speak of your dad, it sounds a bit, I guess, remorseful or a bit disappointed in a way.
It took a long time to get over it. It was actually the first time I went to therapy was because of that. But I think the breaking point really came after, fortunately or not, it's after I finished IB. So for those of you who don't know, IB is really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was not doing well. I nearly failed. So we had mock exams and I was about to fail. And to be fair, instead of studying during the holidays, I was not studying. And so I looked at my grades. I'm like, okay, it's about 4 months away from final exams. I have to get my shit together. I So I like locked myself in my room. I quit swimming, which was considerably big. And I grinded like 12 hours a day. I was pulling all-nighters. The days I went swimming, I remember like I'd stay up all night, down like some pre-workout, go straight to swimming, go to school, and just pass out after.
Jeez, it sounds like those. Have you heard of the Japanese students and like their lifestyles when they study for? Oh God, I forgot what it's called. But when they study from primary school to high school or middle school to high school,
I've heard. I think it's similar in China as well, right?
It's a huge deal for them. It just sounds like shocking because it sounds exactly what you've just described. It's like study all the way through the night, and then school time is your actual time to rest, and then you go home and then repeat it again.
It's definitely I can't compare myself to that because that's on a whole other level. But there were the odd night or two where you stay up all night, you do your work, and then you just get on with your day.
Yeah, you can't invalidate your own story like that, but I admire that a lot. But what I wanted to ask, like, what did it feel like to let go of something that was so big in your life? Because I can imagine swimming, like you're training every morning.
It honestly, it wasn't easy. And like swimming culture in my school, it actually got to the point where, because how my school is the pool is right next to the entrance. So if we saw people that, who are swimmers and they missed the morning training, we'd see them walk in and we call from, hey, where were you at training? And, I used to laugh and do that as well. And then when I started doing that, I'm like, oh, this kind of feels bad. So then, it took a while, but then those few extra hours of sleep, instead of waking up at 5, you can wake up at 7. It made such a big difference. And it was like, I think it was for the better. I finished IB. I did well enough to come to UniMelb. And I still have great friends. So definitely no regrets. I finished my swimming career hitting the targets I wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
So
and that's what you, I guess, can retire on or
exactly
finish up on and not look back and be like, oh, what if? And then be resentful at those sorts of things. And in terms of your family and everything.
Okay, yeah. So we got a bit off topic.
No, that's okay. Only if you're comfortable.
No, of course.
Yeah.
So I think I just set a timeline. So after I finished high school in 2017, I was enlisted into the army. So
that's true. You have to do your.
So yeah, every Singaporean male citizen, once they finish school, they have to do 2 years of compulsory national service. So that was another big eye opener in my life. You meet all different types of people. Doesn't matter where you came from. They shave your head, and you go to the army. And honestly, only looking back, I can say I had fun. But I will I don't care how much you pay me. You can never make me do what I did again.
Yeah. Oh my God. Power of hindsight, hey?
Yeah.
At least
definitely.
you can look back on it with
definitely.
Sort of, I don't know, a smile on your face.
But initially, so how army works briefly, it's about 10 weeks of basic training. It's you get your fitness up, you shoot guns, you throw grenades. I'm telling you, that's fun. Like if you play Call of Duty or Fortnite and you throw a grenade and you think like, oh, this is so weak. I'm telling you, you throw a grenade in real life, I was 20 meters away, I still felt shockwaves.
How much damage did it get the kill?
It got the kill, man.
It got the kill,
I was like 10 meters off target and still got the kill.
Oh my God.
And we have like 2 of us hanging from our vest. I'm like, oh my God, the thing goes off. I'm gonna die.
Oh, it's crazy how you put that into perspective and how desensitized we are to it, especially when you play video games a lot.
Exactly.
Like I play like Val and FPS games all the time, and I'm just like, oh my God, why did that not kill him? And then you I guess bring your story over, and it's the army, and things are actually real, and these things can actually hurt yourself.
It's very surreal, especially when you're shooting. You're like, we load our own magazines, and you just see the bullet, and like, we play like hundreds of video games, and I remember like when I played Call of Duty, you'd see like you have like 200 rounds of ammo left over, and like, that's not much. And I carry like 60 rounds. I'm like, this is pretty heavy, when you start actually carrying all the weight. It actually has meaning to it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Anyways, I finished basic training end of 2017, and I was fortunate enough to go to officer cadet school, which is where you train to be an officer. So in Singapore, it's considered quite a prestige because, they tell you only the top 10% of basic training goes. And when you're an officer, people have to salute you. Your pay is better. I'm like, that sounds pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Get extra pay. You have a more meaningful time in the army, hopefully something to add to the resume. And so I fortunately made it to officer cadet school. I don't know how. I wasn't that fit. I couldn't shoot that well, but God has a way. And I just remember the culture shock in officer cadet school. Like within 20 seconds of going there, like we were being pushed down. We had to do push-ups. We were running up and down. It was just such a big culture shock, especially since in basic training, my instructors were very kind. They were very reasonable. They didn't make you crawl or do all the ridiculous stuff you see on TV. And you went to OCS and just like, nah, this is brutal. I remember so coincidentally, that's also when my parents' marriage started really breaking down. So it was officer cadet school was it was 9 months. So I started in December 2017, finished in September.
August,
9
September.
months.
Yeah.
9 months. And it was, I think, end of 2018. So I was done with OCS. That's the only thing I really remember. It was New Year's Eve. And I was in the club and I was meant to meet some other friends. And I get a call from my mom. She's like, family emergency. I'm like, oh my God. So I had to, rush home to flake on some friends. And, that's when my dad sat everyone down. He told us how he was feeling. And he just said like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm going to Hong Kong. And that was the last time we ever saw him.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I remember my 2018. I'm like, damn.
Gee whiz. I'm obviously, I don't have much experience in terms of like divorce and marriage and those sorts of things. Can you describe, I guess, your emotions?
So I was very angry because before he finally said that, he was just arguing a lot. He was just saying some very false things against my mother, and I got extremely defensive and emotional. And I think he just took that as a sign where no one was supporting him, when in reality, like, we moved houses 3 times. We sold off a lot of assets just so he claimed, he needed the money, but we knew a lot of it was going to gambling. I knew my college fund was gone. So that's why, I think all that pent up anger I just let out. And obviously I wasn't the most respectful. If I could go back in time, I'd be even more disrespectful because that's the deep resentment I had, but let's not get into that.
Are you the eldest of 3?
I'm the eldest. So I have a younger brother. He's 20, but he was born with a very rare condition where his heart was on the other side of his body. So he had a couple of open heart surgeries, and that affected his cognitive behavior. So even though he's 20, he's still in high school. And I have another sister. She's, I want to say 16 or 17. I feel really bad now. But Clarice, if you listen to this, I still love you. I always love you. I'm really bad with birthdays, but yeah, she's a final year of IB, so she's coming down to Melbourne as well to study.
Oh, amazing. Good family reunion. So what were all 3 of you like growing up?
Very different. So being the oldest child, I definitely had the strictest upbringing. So I had my curfew. I couldn't go out. I got into trouble a bit more times than I should have. My brother, obviously with his heart condition, he got a lot of care, which is completely understandable. And my sister, I think she got off the easy end. So I remember my mom stacked me with so much tuition as a kid. That's another big thing in Singapore is the tutoring. I had tuition for like English, Chinese, math, science.
Everything, right?
If I wasn't swimming, I was in tuition. And I think my mom realized that it was spoon feeding me a bit too much, and I didn't really know how to study on my own, which impacted university later on. So with my sister, she's a lot more chill. She's like, oh, you don't need tuition for this. You can sort it out yourself. And I see my sister, and like she's going out and stuff. I'm like, hey, Mom, what's this?
You broke all the barriers. You were the test subject.
I was definitely the test child.
As an older child myself, I can see that as well. You sort of paved the way for your younger siblings, which is always a great time.
I also think that, culturally as Asians, if you're the oldest son, and in my case, I was the first grandson. First male grandson. Oh, yeah, grandson.
Yeah, grandson, yeah.
in like the generation. So even like I had a lot of extended relatives, and my late grandfather, he was like, oh, he's, the one. I'm just like, what am I meant to do? I'm just the oldest. I'm just chilling here.
Right. I think, as us, what sort of generation would you be considered? Because I'm first, technically. Or like,
as in like first generation Australian.
Yeah, like Asian.
Oh.
Asian. In terms of that whole male, like first son sort of thing,
so
I've never understood it.
I just know I'm the first grandson.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
all I know.
Yeah, and then there's all these expectations on you from other relatives and family members, especially when you're the oldest out of the group of cousins as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gosh, like Yeah, the expectations are insane. And I'm very fortunate, like my parents were chill as, but
Yeah,
I can imagine the pressure and on top of already what sounds like, gosh, a very high intense program that you have to go through.
So yeah, I think the pressure was definitely more subconscious. I think when I look back, I'm like, oh, when I got my kick up the butt to do well in academics, I'm like, okay, I'm the oldest son, I have to set the example. When I went to the army, I'm like, okay, if I'm in the army and I have to do it, I might as well make the most of it.
Mm.
And I think that was a subconscious of, always trying to set the example for my younger cousins to show that if you really tried, like you don't need talent, you don't need a gift, you just need to put in the work.
I love that. I love that so much. Was that something that you, like, I guess, bestowed on yourself?
Oh, definitely. So going back to swimming, I remember I did a workshop, and in America, and the one of the instructors there was like, yeah, you don't have the body size for a swimmer,
Jeez.
and like you're not gonna make it. I'm just like, and I just remembered like he's right, but I'm not gonna let that define me. I'm still gonna put in the effort, and I want to prove that hard work will beat talent if talent doesn't work hard. So that was just my mentality growing up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sort of shows with, I guess, your mum telling you, oh, you got to quit it.
Yeah.
And also the coach saying, no, you don't have the body size for it. But you kept, I guess, resisting. Obviously, it came to an end, but you still reached the benchmarks and everything that you wanted.
Exactly,
So it proves that hard work does pay off. And as talented as you may be, if you don't put in the work, then
Exactly.
the results don't show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Continue on with, so after the army and everything.
So after the army and after my dad left in 2018, it was a bit better. Army, I know we're jumping the timeline a lot, but OCS, I was put in, I was training to be an artillery officer. So again, like if you play video games and you call in like an airstrike or something, or like an artillery strike, that was my job. I'll be the one with the binoculars, with the laser, like, okay, blow that up. And that's what I was trying to do.
Oh my God.
So we went to Thailand to train, and that's what we did. We were blowing up mountains and stuff. It was great.
Can you describe the feeling?
Oh, it's like, I'll be honest, you kind of feel like God. So like you see a mountain, and your instructor tells you your assignment is, here's the target and we want you to blow it up. And so you do the math, you pull out your compass, you look on the map, okay, the coordinates of the target is this area, and you radio back to base like, oh, hey base, here are the coordinates, and just blow it up. And you see the rounds, and when it lands on target, like, oh my God, I did it.
Oh my days. See, this is and nothing against you as a person, but like, oh my God, it scares me how accessible these I guess weaponry and everything is when and this is why like war breaks out, people are fighting for power and everything, because you have these sensations.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Oh my gosh. That is, see, I'm just so desensitized to all of it. I'm just taking it all in. But you finished the army.
Yes, so I finished in 2019 in August.
Wow, pretty recent.
So pretty recent. I had 6 months, so I did some internships, tried studying a bit to get ready for university, and I finally made the big move down to Australia in 2020. And then, it was great for about 2 weeks, and then, as we all know, COVID hit. And so I was in Melbourne for like a total of 3 weeks in 2020. I got a call from my mom, and it's like, okay, you're coming back to Singapore.
Oh my gosh. Describe what that was like, and then I guess the lead up to returning back to Australia. And
So,
I'm gonna change the cameras.
Yeah, sure. So, do you want me to keep talking?
Yeah,
Okay.
go on.
So basically, I remember, like, I'll be fully honest, I was in a relationship by the time I came to Australia, and initially I actually told my mom I was gonna stay in Australia and wait it out. And like, I kid you not, like that night I called my now ex-girlfriend, and she's like, I'm coming back to Singapore. And the next day I'm like, hey mom, I want to go back to Singapore now. Like, within a few hours, like, okay. Like I called her that afternoon, and like 10 minutes later she's like, your flight's at 7:30. I'm like, what the heck?
Oh my gosh.
I had to throw out or give away all my food in the fridge. I had to pack up everything, and I shipped out.
Amazing.
So I was back in Singapore for most of 2020. I came back in 2021 March. It was really good for a bit, and then, as we know, we went to our second lockdown, which was not fun. This time I stayed in Melbourne and stuck it out. And so technically I like to joke that 2022, even though it's my third year in university, it's my first proper year on campus.
which is so sad as well.
It is.
Yeah, I can definitely relate because I was meant to be, 2020, 2021 was meant to be like in person. High school was 2020, and then 2021 was first year on campus and everything, but it was all online.
Yeah.
And in your instance as well, coming to a new country and transitioning, I can imagine you didn't have the connections or the network that you do now, obviously. But talk to us a bit about that. What's it like? Was it very isolated?
It was it was definitely so isolating. I remember definitely 2020. I didn't make any friends at all because it was all online. It was on Zoom. It was a bit better in 2020 because it was the first year. At least more people had their cameras on. But towards maybe the final few weeks, that's when black screen, muted. It was so draining to just get to class. And the same thing happened in 2021 where I made maybe 1 or 2 surface level friends just because we did assignments together. But then again, like there's no real connections. The only friends I managed to make were either at the gym or like old high school friends that also studied in Melbourne, and we got really close. And then it was only in like towards the end of 2021 and start of 2022 to now where I made some really, really good connections within Melbourne through gyms, throughout, festivals or raves or just other networking events. And that's when I found like, wow, like, I can really call Australia a good place to be home because I have such a strong community now.
Yeah, it's amazing that perspective because Melburnians in general, when we were in lockdown, thought it was so bad and it was like the end of the world. But then I really sympathize with a lot of the international students or people coming to Australia for, I guess, a career change or to actually find a life here. And the past 2-3 years, we haven't even been able to, I guess, meet anyone, or you haven't been able to meet anyone, like other than gym or the occasional uni friends. It was really hard for you to develop connections, and I really respect you for putting yourself out there and everything, because it can be hard. And I think a lot of Melburnians as well, and I've found at uni, we have a very like elitist culture, and I think everyone's very shut offish, and it's all too true when you talk about the black screens and muted cameras. It's so draining going to class, and I feel so bad for tutors who are being underpaid.
Exactly.
Who have been revealed to be underpaid, and they give off, obviously they're not going to care if they're not being paid. So then students aren't going to care as well. And it's just this downward effect from the institution itself.
It trickles down.
Yeah. So what's life been like? 2022, it's been your first proper year, we'll say.
Yeah, it's been great. I did my first powerlifting meet. That's where I met you.
Yes.
And then I had some ups and downs. I had my first rave. I went clubbing for the first time in Melbourne as well. And on top of that, I switched degrees actually. So had a big career revelation.
What'd you go in studying first?
At first, I went to science. I was trying to study computer science. And I did that for 2020 and 2021. And I found out that wasn't for me. It was too draining. I feel that computer science is one of those things where like you do need talent for it. And I very evidently did not have that. And another big reason is because my mom was nagging me. She was like, comp sci is the next big thing. You be a software engineer, you'll make bank. That's what you want to go to.
Shout out, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. But, I did enjoy learning a lot. I remember if you're in UniMel, the first course is Foundations of Computing. And it's pretty fun. Like, you learn the basics. And, like, it gives you that confidence. And then comes second semester, they hit you with all the math. You got Calc 2, you got linear algebra, you got algorithms. And just like, what is this? And after, like, a year of trying, I'm like, I've had enough. Like, I'm burning out. And with the results I'm getting, it's not worth it. So I made a very big jump from science. I switched to arts, and I'm deciding now to major in politics and economics. So it's completely different. Like econs has some of the math, but from getting a bunch of just exams to do, I had now essays. And fortunately enough, I found the content really interesting. So it was a lot easier to type out essays than write code.
Yeah,
and it's just
I'm the same. I love essay writing. I mean, I'm sure you could see through the post that I made, but exactly. Yeah, I did really well in English, and I love that you were able to take that leap, because I think a lot of people do transfer, but I think there's always the few people, myself included, who want to make the jump, but they've invested so much time into a degree. Thing. So then they're like, oh, might as well just like stick it out, and then they're just not enjoying it and passively getting by. Yeah. Whereas I really admire the fact that you were able to take a jump and run the risk and And it's a very privileged position to have, of course, like being able to just switch, because there's a lot of money involved with uni, especially as an international student as well.
Yeah, I get.
Yes,
so
true. You do. Okay, very lucky.
But still, it's still like you have to pay upfront. It is a very big privilege.
And I think it's such a big deal for a lot of young people these days to go to high school and then go to uni, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I think the world's changing, and I love the fact that you were able to jump degrees and find something that you were passionate in. How's it been? And where are you hoping to take it?
So it's been really, really good, honestly. I've made more friends because classes have been in person. I've noticed I've definitely learned to put a lot more effort into uni, because I think I was so just burnt out when I was doing computer science. So I'm like, I can study another day. Let's go to the gym instead. But now I'm really learning that balance where when exams came up, I cut off gym for a bit just to really focus. And I think that's hopefully really going to pay off. So career-wise, it's also been a very big roller coaster. So at first, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I remember 18-year-old me were like, we have 2 years of army. You can decide then. And I go to the army, and I admit, they do a good job brainwashing you. Because after basic training, I'm like, I want to join the army. I want to go to the Navy. I signed up actually. So I made it to the final interview, and unfortunately, I didn't get in, but it is what it is.
I think everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. So I was looking back, if you go to the army, it's like a 5-6 year commitment, and it's big. And then especially once I became an officer and I saw what day-to-day life as an officer was, I'm just like, this isn't for me.
What was the day-to-day life?
So once I commissioned, I was an operations officer, and basically what that entails is I'd be in the office, and I was in a battalion, and within each battalion there are 4 companies, and each company, I compile all their training, I organize it to make sure there's no conflict of interest, there's no clashes. I'll plan battalion training, and then I'll just make sure all our operation manuals and SOPs are ready for inspection during the yearly audits. So it was a lot more paperwork than I thought, for sure. And a lot more dealing with people, because one of my secondary duties was basically in camp, there was supposed to be an officer on duty just in case anything happens. And it was my job to assign that roster. So obviously, on weekends, on public holidays, you gotta assign people. You gotta be the bad guy.
Yeah.
So that taught me a lot of dealing with people. And you really learn that there was a very interesting saying where in one of my former instructors told me it's when you are in your worst situation, that's when people reveal their true colors. And for most of us in the army, that's when you're in the jungle, you have no food, and when someone asks you to help pitch a tent or a cover, that's when you see their true self. And I 100% agree with that. But I also want to argue that when you give someone the comforts of life, and then you want to take that away in the form of can you take over the Sunday duty where you have to come to camp for the whole day, they resist just as much because they already have that comfort. And when you try and take it away, they will really fight to keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I found so interesting.
Yeah, and I guess it relates back to when you were talking about Singapore as well, how everyone have offers from amazing places in the world, in America, where opportunities are endless. Yes, it's not the best or safest place there, and there are some, I guess, conflicts that can be quite life-endangering as well, but I guess all in all, it's an amazing opportunity, and then people just turn it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, I think it's really sad, and to be honest, I might be a culprit to it as well. Maybe I've turned down opportunities that I should have said yes to. So now I'm trying to adopt the yes man persona and try and take those opportunities where possible and try to meet people where possible as well.
There's definitely you have to strike a balance, because there's a difference between very obliging and going out, where you think it will be better for yourself. So it's definitely you can't say yes to everything.
Exactly.
You just have to consider if I do this, what's the cost? What's the benefit? Will this help me?
That's very economics.
Yes.
Yeah, the economist has come out.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it like balancing life, I guess? Because you're studying, you're doing the gym, and you're looking for future career trajectories, might be in contact with family and friends as well. What's it all like?
So I think growing up with swimming, where the contact hours were so much more, it really taught me now to organize myself. So I have my weekly schedule. I set my training a few weeks in advance. So obviously, with coach, shout out to Victor, Liu Lift. He gives me my training. I can plan my days around it, and then I'll plan my uni courses accordingly. So I'll usually put them on the days I don't go to the gym. So I devote like 1-2 full days of just uni work, and then I'll plan or do all the extra stuff on the weekends. So usually I don't see my friends until like Friday night, Saturday night. And yeah, the rest of the time is catching up on uni or at the gym.
Yeah, love that. Love that a lot. Yeah, I guess. Oh gosh, with your lifting, maybe we'll get into a little bit of a segment.
For sure.
What's your journey been like? Because you had the swimming and everything. I swam as well, and then got into the gym, but probably not to the elite standard that you were at.
We're all swimmers at the end of the day.
Exactly. Describe, what it was like swimming, and then what inspired the transition.
Sure. So throughout my swimming career, like we were in and out of the gym for just general strength and conditioning, but our swim coach would always do a lot of it was kind of like CrossFit basically, a lot of high rep work, and like I didn't really enjoy it. And I had a lot of friends who were bodybuilding or powerlifting, and I see them deadlifting 1 to 2 reps. I'm like, oh, that looks kind of fun. Like all my mates are doing like their swimming related stuff. I'm just deadlifting the corner, and my coach would just look at me and he's like, bro, what are you doing? But
explosive training.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, my school, unfortunately, the gym was so bad. I told you earlier, we had no squat rack. So what I did to squat was I got the bar, I put it on the dip machine, the assisted dip machine on the bars. I just walked out with that. And I got some weird stares, but you got to do what you got to do. No way I was using the Smith machine. So yeah.
Are you against
I was so against the Smith machine.
Oh, fair enough.
Negative weight, man.
What about now?
Still against it.
Oh, okay.
So, there's not a reason to use it. The only time coach actually planned it was for Bulgarians.
Yeah.
And I straight up told him, like, I'm not doing that. just let me hold a dumbbell, but I'm not using the Smith machine.
Fair enough. You either love it or you hate it.
Exactly.
I like
Fair enough. Yeah, it has its benefits for sure.
Exactly.
It's my personal preference.
Fair enough. That's an amazing sight to behold, what you were doing with the barbell. That's crazy. I can't imagine. As if the machine didn't flip over.
I don't know how it didn't flip over, man. I'll be honest, but I'm still here.
Yep, you're still here. You're alive.
So anyways, I stopped swimming when I finished, or as I was finishing high school in 2017. And then obviously in the army, I took a small break from the gym as well. I think in the army, actually, I was at my fittest. Because the army test is as many push-ups in 1 minute, as many sit-ups, and a 2.4 kilometer run. So there was no emphasis on weight training. And I remember I was running like 10K. I'm like, that's it? I'm like, oh, I can go another 10K. This is easy. And I was knocking out 80 push-ups in a minute. I could finally do my pull-ups. I hit 20 pull-ups, which was a goal I'd never imagined I'd hit.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So yeah, if 8-year-old me could have seen that, I think he wouldn't have believed it. But then transitioning away, once I finished army, I went back to the gym. I remember just researching free powerlifting programs, and I stuck to one. Got some good results, and then that carried me through to 2019. And in 2020, when I came to UniMelb, the first thing I did was I went straight to the powerlifting club, and that's where I met my current coach, Victor. So he took me in. I don't know what he saw in me, but I remember how UniMelb worked. I don't know if did you join the powerlifting?
I didn't. No, I didn't. Never got back to me. Thanks, UniMelb. Love that.
That's UniMelb for you, but I went to the tryouts. It was pretty fun. You do your 5 rep maxes.
Oh wow, okay.
And so I don't think I put up that good numbers. And Victor was like, "You're with me," and he was the intermediate coach. I'm like, I'll take it. A win's a win. And then I stuck with Victor throughout lockdown. He coached me remotely, and I made I think it's the newbie gains, as most gym people would call it. I made some really good progress, and I really fell in love with lifting. Yeah, and here we are now.
I know, and that's how we met. And I think while there are a lot of powerlifters coming onto the podcast, I think it just goes to show the community that it can build and the happiness that it can sort of bring into other people's lives. I've met you, I've met so many other people, and hoping to meet so many more. And it's just an amazing story. We won't centralize the podcast around it though.
Exactly.
Talk to me about, you did mention your ex-partner.
Yes.
What was the
okay, sure.
ultimate fruition of the relationship?
Yeah, this is a whole arc in my life. So she was an old high school friend. We shared a math class together, and we were just really, honestly, it was truly platonic friends. I was in another relationship, she was in a relationship, and when she went to university, I went to the army. She came back like in 2019 for a holiday, and we just agreed to meet up as friends. So we went out, we got some dinner, and then we went to a bar because we love drinking. So at the bar we had like, I don't know, at dinner we had like a jug of beer. At the bar we had like 12 shots of tequila each. And then after that we went to another bar. We had like another 6 vodka shots each, like 2-3 bottles of soju and like 2 beers. So we were pretty drunk.
Sauce, man. I'm going after 2. I'm not gonna lie. I'm such a lightweight.
So we ended up in the club, as we all do, and we had a connection. That's all I'll say. And the funny part is, from that, none of us remember what happened, but we still don't remember what happened. We remember the club, and the next thing you know, the police are waking us up. So where we were, we're like in the we were in the center of the city. So for all my Singaporeans, we're at Clarke Quay. We're at F Club, and we woke up in that's in the city, right?
Yeah.
And we woke up in the east near the airport by the police.
How far away is that?
I wish I could tell you, man.
Oh my gosh.
I know a cab ride was involved, but next thing you know, the police wakes us up. We look around. We're in the park. We're on the floor, just gone. And that's the start.
That's a great story. What was did they just wake you up and leave you? Or,
No, they woke us up, make sure we're okay, and then she called me a cab home because she
legend.
recovered. That was amazing. And then the following week I asked her for like a proper dinner, and that's funnily enough we didn't want to do long distance. We're like, long distance wasn't gonna work. I mean,
was that always on the cards? Because
it was actually.
So where was she studying?
She was studying in Canada.
Oh, okay, yep.
So in Toronto. So like we're like, yeah, we're not gonna do long distance. We're just talking it through dinner, and I'm like, yeah, let's just have fun this summer. That's all we did. And then when she left, I'm like, oh my god, I really like her. So I remember I was in Bali with my holiday, with my army friends, and I was messaging her, and I remember I told her, she's like, what if we spend the rest of our lives thinking what if and regretting not trying long distance? And then she asked me out.
That is very romantic. I love that. Yeah. And you did the long distance.
So we did long distance.
I wanted to ask. Yeah.
2019 to this year, 2022. We did over 3 years.
Wow.
And it definitely came with its challenges. There was some very frustrating moments, but I think that in the end, I can still look back and say, like, I don't regret it at all. It was an amazing relationship. I hold no grudges. I hope she's doing the best she is now. And so the big pillars for our long distance was just mainly having a routine. So we called every night. That was a non-negotiable. And so at least I'd see her every day. We'd still message, even with the 13, 14-hour time difference. And every week, usually a Saturday or Sunday, we'd have like a long call. So either we'd watch Netflix together, or we'd like do like a virtual date where we just chill and eat together. And I really think that contributed to how the longevity of our relationship.
Yeah, I think the stigma around long distance relationships is pretty poor. I think a lot of people highly doubt whether long distance works and whether cheating happens, or whether what's my other partner doing, exactly. or there's not that communication and those sorts of things. So yeah, talk to us a bit about how you planned it out. Was it always something that you had in mind, or did it come across as you sort of progressed throughout your relationship?
I think it was kind of a bit of both. We had some very clear expectations of each other, and it really came down to, no matter what, we'd always be honest with each other, and we'd always communicate directly. And that just meant that if one of us was upset, we'd call each other out. We'd say, oh, what you said or what you did upset me, and here's why. And it also just...
That's such an important part.
Oh, definitely.
The here's why.
Yeah.
I think, if you can provide reason, and it's something I struggle to do sometimes as well, if you can provide reason, I don't think the other person, or if the other person truly loves you or respects you, then they should be obligating to, I don't know, change their behaviors or something. Yeah.
So, so I think that the fact that we were very honest with each other, and, we didn't beat around the bush, there was no passive aggressive like arguments. we were so direct with each other, we couldn't surprise each other. Because like when it came to birthday, it was like, what do you want? Straight up. I'm not gonna surprise you. I don't know. You just tell me what you want.
Yeah, I love that.
But
I think that's fine. I think
yeah.
I think that should honestly be normalized,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Because sometimes, I don't know, surprises can be underwhelming.
Exactly,
And,
yeah.
It's like, I might as well just get you a gift that you're going to love and you're
Or
going to
use.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or use practical gifts.
Exactly.
We love that.
We were very big on that. So, and another big thing was I am really grateful for this relationship is she really taught me to empathize. So she's definitely more of a deep thinker compared to me. And like she knew how to empathize, she knew how to communicate. I'm just like, wow, it's actually pretty scary because there are times where I unfortunately couldn't empathize with her and it would be quite frustrating. And there were also times where I felt she couldn't empathize with me because even though I didn't know how I was feeling and I would try my best to describe it, she would also struggle because she didn't understand my thought process. And that's on me because I didn't know how to just verbally emote it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, as guys, stereotypically, we struggle a lot more with emotions, and I would consider myself as someone who can sometimes, to the best of my ability, empathize and try and communicate my emotions, but sometimes, yeah, it can be quite hard. Obviously, in my relationship, it's been a bit hard sometimes to communicate, and it goes back to what you said, like, I don't know how to communicate how I'm actually feeling or describe it, and it can be so challenging in a relationship when you feel off, but you don't know how to explain it.
It's so frustrating because like it almost feels as if like you're trying your best, but it's not enough.
Exactly, and then
all
the
that
other
doubt.
party doesn't really
Exactly,
understand what
yeah.
you're trying to communicate. Yeah, exactly. How did you navigate that, and do you feel like you've gotten better at it?
So we talked it out a lot, and I think another thing that was kind of a challenge was she like if there was an argument, she liked talking things out straight away just to clear out any bad air so we don't sleep on bad terms, and I like having my own space to reflect. So we kind of came up with like a middle ground where, you know, we'll be like, oh, after an argument, like, I need maybe like 1 day or 2 days to just be alone. And as long as I gave her that affirmation that, you know, this isn't forever, just for 1-2 days, she would be able to give me that space alone. And conversely, like I'd promise to, with those 2 days, I'd really reflect and try and articulate as best I can how I was feeling. And that did work.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and it's about setting those boundaries as well, because it's not like either of you are conforming to each other's wants and needs. It's not like she's saying, no, tell me right this instant. Or it's not like you're just airing her and then sweeping it under the rug. You do address it at the end. It's just about when and what works for both of you.
Exactly. It's
And
trying to find that
awesome.
middle ground.
Exactly. That's awesome. Can you think of any other struggles or really highs from a long-term relationship?
I think I think this is general, I dare say it's general advice, but the most important thing for a long distance relationship to work is that you have to know it's temporary, that eventually someone has to make the move. And for me, that was either I move up to Canada or she moves down to Melbourne.
And was that the sort of conflict that ultimately
That was a
ended
very big conflict. I remember, so we were very, very privileged enough to visit each other. So I flew up in January this year, and she flew down in like July, August. So we were able to see each other. But the problem was after she left Melbourne, there was no fixed date on when we could see each other next, because she was graduating from a master's. She was going to find a job, and I set to finish uni. I had to do internship applications. I didn't know when I could travel again. And I remember I was so happy when she was here. Like all those doubts, I just subconsciously pushed away. Like, you know, don't worry about it. Think about it. You know, we'll cross that bridge when it gets there. And then when I went up for the mid-sem break to Sydney for a holiday, and when I came back, I think just all those negative emotions, it just hit its tipping point, and it just all let out. All the doubts and fears just came out. And this was like in October, actually, so quite recent.
Quite recent, yeah, far out.
So I remember I called my now ex, and like, oh, I'm like having serious doubts about this relationship, and I just need some time to think about it. And she was very understanding, and like I really thought about it. I called so many people. I wrote out pros and cons lists. I wrote out realistic futures. I did like mind maps, and I think one of the most definitive deciding factors was I called mom, and she was like, "Do you realistically see her as like your wife?" I'm like, I don't. And she's like, break it off now, because my mom, for the first time, she shared with me, like, with her old boyfriend, she's like, I'd rather have them break up with me now than just lead me along and just waste everyone's time. So, and after that, I'm like, yeah, okay, guess I got to do what I got to do. So yeah, the big day, I broke up with her on a Sunday. That's when we have our usual calls. And I don't think she expected it at all, because she did, like, understandably get very upset. I know she tried her best to, like, try and tell me otherwise, but as much as I wanted to say, let's give this a few more months to really test it out, I think deep down I knew that if we did that, we'd just waste each other's time, and the relationship would just devolve, and we'd end up really resenting each other. So I would have much rather end it when we were on somewhat good terms than let it drag out, because either way, she would have gotten hurt. She would have gotten frustrated and angry at me. And at least this way, we didn't waste each other's time, and then we can remember all the beautiful times we had before.
From how you talk about her and about your relationship, it shows that you really care about her, or cared. I still care.
I still care about her, for sure. Like, I wish her nothing but the best.
Exactly. And I think when you walk away from breakups like that, I think it's sad. It's a closing chapter and everything. But I think when you walk away from breakups, it's really important to try your best to make sure it's a clean break off, and that you wish the best for the other person. I know with, like, my past relationships, I haven't had the best breakups ever. Lots of turmoil, but it sounds like, you really consulted a lot of people and came to, like, a really harsh truth as well. And I think for listeners, like, deep down, if you know something's up, or you know that there's not really, like, a future or something going for you in relationships, whether that be friendships as well, I think friendships can be a really hard thing to break up
definitely,
from as well.
Like breaking up with friends, I dare say is just as bad as a relationship.
I think so too, because you're so accustomed to hanging out with this group and spending so much time with them, and then it's like, well, where to next? Like, where's my next group of people that I can call, like, my people, sort of thing, just to bring it to maybe people who aren't going through, like, a relationship thing, but maybe friendship thing.
Definitely, yeah. So I think one thing that I found very interesting was when I was talking with just, some close friends, they said that even though you're the one that broke up, that doesn't mean you're not hurting. Yeah, that's something that really resonated with me. I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that definitely really resonated with me, because, like, you'd expect where, like, people think, oh, you're the one that broke up, why are you sad? We're like, I still had feelings, man. Like, it's not like we fell out of love. It's just, as bad as it may sound, it's just, there wasn't a future. And then continuing on to friendships, I think the one good thing that did come out of ending the relationship is I had so much more motivation to put myself out there, to meet new people, and I've made some amazing new friends. Like, I really found out, who I can really rely on.
I love that. And sometimes, and no disrespect to any partner, or
definitely not,
or relationship, sometimes you shouldn't pigeonhole yourself into a relationship and become, not that I was saying you were codependent or anything, but I can imagine you would feel comfortable, and I feel comfortable in my relationship, but I still try my best to, I guess, put myself out there and really expand my networks, because at the end of the day, this is another person you might have a more intimate connection with, but who are the people that you're surrounding with that are gonna, I don't know, give you future employment opportunities.
Exactly.
Or celebrate your wins with you. Yes, your partner's awesome, but you need friends that also celebrate your wins, and mourn with you as well when you need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Friends, you realize how important having, like, a close-knit group of friends are, especially in a relationship. It's hard to not feel a bit complacent, because you can, at the end of the day, you know that, oh, I have my partner there to, to talk to or everything. But you still need a group of friends, because, it's good to have that separation.
It is very good. Yeah. Gosh, 3 years.
3 years, 2 months, around there.
Jeez, it's very long. Well, I respect.
Thank you.
Respect the shit out of you for doing that. And well, my partner's gonna move as well. So
really,
yeah, she's going to Sydney. So not as far.
Long distance is still a distance. Like, you can't invalidate that.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. And yeah, just like appreciate the tips and advice as well. Like this might even just be a selfish podcast. Like I want to just chat to you about
no way, no way.
it.
I'm so happy my story can help.
Yeah, exactly. And I really appreciate it. I hope people got a lot out of that.
Hopefully.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about?
So, I mean, regarding my relationship saga, that's about it, honestly. Yeah, I think it definitely took a few weeks to process. The only thing I joke about really is like I got the forbidden pre, as all lifters should know. Like, yeah, lifting isn't going well. I'm 2 weeks out from comp, so just need to channel that inner aggression and
You're a demon, man, far out. Actually, I wanted to talk about your iconic belt flick. I love the shit out of it, and I always always see your belt flicks all over your. Was it Ethan _Lou lifts?
Yes. So shameless plug.
Yes.
If you want to watch me lift, it's Ethan _Liu lifts.
What belt are you rocking with?
So I rock the Inzer belt. Which actually I got a gift from one of my really good friends. I've had it since 2017.
Jeez, that must be like broken in.
Oh, it's so broken into. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's like molded to your body and everything. Yeah, if you want to check out his page, far out, the man finishes any lift, and he's just flicked it, and it's the most majestic thing ever.
Too Kai.
I remember seeing you at comp. I was like, damn, I wish I had that confidence at comp, because my first comp, I was shitting bricks. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then you just see this man finish his deadlift PR and is just flicked off his belt like a warlord, pretty much. He's like, yep, job's done.
I remember when I first met Jaden, it was one of our other friends, Chris Feng. So big shout out to him. He's like, watch out for this guy. You know, when it comes to deadlifts, gotta be prepared. I'm like, oh my god, this man's built. I saw this man in his singlet and the mullet. I'm just like, damn, this guy's gonna pull something big.
I think I flopped my dead. So hoping to have a strong. Oh, I saw a post actually that coaches were saying don't call it off season, because then you sort of restrict your mentality and you don't go as hard. So it's more like a building season for me at the moment, and looking into comps in the future. But what's next for you? You've got, so hopefully the podcast will be out by then, or it'll be probably be after.
Amazing. Yeah, sure. So funny that you bring that up is as soon as I'm done with comp, I'm doing an off season. I'm taking a break from squat, bench, deadlift. I'm just going full bodybuilder. It's just to give myself that mental reset and just to give my joints a break. Like I'm at the point where like my legs are feeling a bit shaky, knees hurt, elbows are achy. So just want to take some proper time off, properly recomp. I'm still debating whether or not to fill out to become a U100 lifter or cut down to like a very low 90 kilo lifter. So I just want to recomp, get shredded, first time in my life.
Yeah, go to all the race, mate.
Exactly. Especially since I'm with USAPL now, and their comps are usually at the end of the year. So that means I can have like a 6-month break from powerlifting.
And then get back into
pack on as much muscle as I can and then get back into it.
And the thing with bodybuilding as well is like, I'm sure you've seen JPG coaching fly around everywhere. On TikTok and stuff. But he doesn't even do compounds, and he's strong as fuck. Yeah. He hack squats, 6 plates, 7 plates.
It's crazy.
With good technique as well. And it's not like bouncing out from the bottom or anything. I can't get around a hack squat. Like I love the machine, but it's so hard.
I don't think I've had hack squats actually. I always got pendulums.
Pendulums are even worse. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All those variations are whack. But yeah, he's so strong, and he just does bodybuilding. Yeah. I say just, but
I know. Bodybuilding, it's such a respectable form, because I feel for powerlifting, it's, you get hyped up for 1 rep, maybe a couple sets for back offs, and that's it. But for bodybuilding, you have to push to that limit for everything. Like nothing's like an accessory. Everything's your workaught. You can't slack up for anything.
Yeah, the focus needs to be there. And when people rave on about pre-workout, I never understood it. I never understood like all the like L-citrulline and all the different concoctions that you can make. But you really need that focus throughout your workout. So yeah, completely different niche. But I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Can't wait to see you on the platform soon too.
Appreciate it. Where can people find you? I guess actually I'll have your links in the show notes below.
Beautiful. So again, my lifting account is Ethan _Liu lifts.
That's not even your last name, or is it just for Liu lifts?
It's just for my last name is Mac. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, he's plugging the coach. I love that.
Yeah, of course, gotta plug the coach.
Love that. Thank you for telling your story again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Be sure to follow at Life with Lamb Podcast on Instagram and catch you in the next episode. Bye bye.